once again to another episode of Noble, and today we are going to talk about fatherhood. Not just fatherhood, but redeemed fatherhood. It's both a book, but I have a guest in the studio, someone that I hold with high esteem, a pastor, a father, a friend. So, Benson, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So just introduce yourself, tell us what you do.
Thank you, Andrea.
Yes.
My name is Benson Okeyo. I'm the founder of Men Alive.
Yeah.
Men Alive is a men's ministry that is geared towards raising men, just discipling men and mentoring men so that they can be effective as men.
Wow.
Yes, and then I'm also a pastor. I pastor a church called Friends Fellowship Assembly in Buruburu. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for creating a time to be here. So first of all, I know we have a lot that you want to talk about as concerns fatherhood.
Yes.
Because one reality that we have right now is that the institution of marriage is collapsing. You know, ladies or men are not growing up to even think about one day I want to get married and come up with my own family. It's never a priority. But we understand that there are dynamics that has led to that. But first of all, I want to talk about this book, your book, Redeemed Fatherhood. Yes, I like the cover. To start with.
Thank you.
Yes, I love the cover of this book, and then reclaiming the heart of effective fatherhood.
Yes.
So what compelled you to write this book?
Basically, I didn't have a very good upbringing. My father was abusive.
Yes.
And that affected many parts of my life growing up.
Yeah.
So when I grew up, and by the grace of God, I got healed. And I thought there are so many men who suffered what I suffered the way I suffered. So I thought of writing a book to encourage them that they can rise above the challenges that they had growing up. That is the reason why I wrote this book.
Wow.
So basically I'm sharing my story to encourage other men out there that they can rise above their past. They should not allow their past to define them. Yes.
So we're talking about this past, maybe the struggle with your father.
Yes.
How do you think that affected you growing up? Like viewing yourself as a man who one day will be a father.
Yes.
Did you intentionally say, I don't want to be like my father? You know, if you've read Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, Okonko grew to deliberately try not to embrace anything that was like his father's. So how was that for you as you're maneuvering? Because as we grow, we are becoming men, and the idea is that one day we also are going to be fathers. So what are some of the things, the fears, the things that you tried to deliberately run away from?
You see, fathers are very, very important. And I believe that the world is suffering from a lack of fathers. The world does not have a mother problem. The world does not have a child problem. The world has a father problem. And the statistics are staggering. So things like absentee father or an abusive father can really affect a child. So personally, it affected my identity. I had self-esteem issues. I remember in school, I was very active before my father became abusive. I was very active in class, participating in most of the things. But when my father changed, suddenly I was quiet. So I remember in my report card, the teacher would write a very polite boy. But I was dealing with some things. There were some struggles within me. So I just chose to withdraw from life. And I ended up, I hated my father. I hated him deeply because of the kind of things that he exposed us to. Because he became an alcoholic. He will come back home at very late hours in the night, and then he will just start a fight with my mother. Then all of us will end up sleeping outside. And I ended up hating that old man. Then suddenly when I cleared high school, I started struggling with the same things that destroyed him. alcohol destroyed him.
Yes.
So also found myself starting to struggle with alcoholism.
You like now also drinking. Okay.
That the same thing that destroyed my father, the same thing that I hated, because I knew that is what destroyed him.
Yes.
I also started struggling with that. Yes.
That brings us to a very interesting point, because a few years ago, I think I realized I had my issues with my own father.
Yes.
And the revelation came from the book by T.D. Jakes I was reading, Emotions. Then I realized that if you fail to resolve the father issues, you are likely to be a remake of who your father was. The very things you hated about your father happens to be the very things you will be doing. So you, as someone who, I know you've ministered around fatherhood, I've been part of your audience. Now, how important is it for young men to resolve the daddy issues?
That is very, very important. You see, all of us, we have daddy issues. When I look at men, I see men, there are men that were misfathered. Misfathered because their father, he was there. But he was busy pursuing other things. So he was not there 100%. So there are aspects of him that he didn't give to his children. Then there are some men that are underfathered, unfathered. Men that are unfathered, that they were raised with an absentee father. Their father was not there. So that creates a wound in the heart of a child. And that wound begins to define that child until it is resolved. They are called father gaps. That if it is not resolved, then that man will also end up doing the same thing that he hated in his father.
Is it compensatory? Like, do they do it thinking they are either searching for their identity, or they do it to punish the father for the very things he did? I also want to do the very thing so that I get at you. What's that science there?
The science is actually it's unforgiveness. When you don't forgive, then you can't move on. If you want to move on in life, you must forgive. Because if you don't forgive, what happened to you ends up imprisoning you. So it never leaves you. So that sin that was done against you imprisons you. So it becomes part of you, part of who you are. So it's important to forgive. And it takes a lot of courage to forgive. It takes a lot of courage to move on. It takes a lot of courage. So most men are not able to forgive because they lack that courage.
To forgive.
Courage to confront your father. Courage to have a discussion and courage to move on.
So what happens when a father who has been absent for a very long time, probably was abusive, they run away from home, these kids are raised by their parents, that's the mother, they become successful, then in your prime, your father tries to make his way back. What's the place of forgiveness here? That when we were struggling as kids, I never saw you. Now I am here at my moment when I'm I've risen, I'm at the tower. You want to come back. So how do we, where do we get the grace to, accept such a father? I know the story of the prodigal son would explain it in some way or the other. People always view it as only like you being the son, but sometimes it's our fathers that becomes the prodigal sons. So how do men maneuver through that? Because it can be so painful to accept someone who was never there, never supported you, but they come back at your time when you're at your prime.
It's very, very painful, and it requires a lot of courage. Most men cannot do it because they don't have courage. It takes a lot of courage. And the fact that you've forgiven him does not mean that whatever he done was okay. So I'm forgiving him so that I can be free to be a blessing to my own children.
All right.
So at times I don't do it for him, I do it for myself.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for men to understand that when you're forgiving your father,
Yeah.
you are not actually doing it for him. You are doing it for yourself so that you can be free to be a blessing to your own children.
Wow.
Because if you don't gather courage to forgive them, then you will also struggle with your children.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I see it a lot, like among the Black American community.
Yes.
You see these very successful artists or basketballers, these very powerful and the athletes who've really made a lot of money. When they go to the awards, they're only talking about their mother.
Yeah.
And a lot of interviews you hear that they talk so bad about their parents. Yes, the parents who are not there, parents who are not like, like supporting them through all this journey.
Yeah.
But something funny is that these very guys have kids who speak the same thing about them.
Yeah.
So you realize, why would this guy be so successful? But then he becomes a very absent father, or a father whose kids also have issues with him. Yeah.
I think that cycle has to be broken at some point.
Yeah.
Because if we don't break that cycle, then that thing will continue. That dysfunction will continue from one generation to another. It's important for men to understand that there is a mother's contribution in your life. And there is a father's contribution in your life. From a mother, a man gets a sense of belonging and a sense of expression. But from a father, you get a sense of identity. You get a sense of meaning. You get a sense of purpose. You get backbone.
Wow.
And you get a sense of destiny. So if you don't get a father's contribution, then these things will be lacking in you. That's why we really need to reconnect with that father. And the fact that we are reconnecting does not mean that whatever he did was okay. I'm just doing it so that I can be free to move forward.
So part of, forgiving can it be support the father despite him being absent? Are you obligated to? Because I know it can be very uncomfortable, and I've seen how uncomfortable it is to so many people that you're so successful, and then a story is told of your father who is battling with poverty elsewhere. So if I choose to forgive my father, but I say I'm forgiving him for me, but I don't want anything to do with him, does it have an implication that you can be very successful, but your father is grappling with poverty, like sleeping in the streets?
I think let me just start with defining forgiveness. And just explaining a few points about forgiveness. Forgiveness is not easy. And at times it's a process that it will take time for you to get to a place of reconciliation. So the fact that I've decided to forgive my father does not mean that it will just be like that. It's a process. It's a process that takes time. And it's also very painful. It's very, very painful. In the Bible, I see like Joseph forgiving his brothers. But he wept bitterly when he was forgiving them. He wept bitterly because it's very, very painful. It's very, very painful. And then you also need, I think, people, other people, apart from your father, you need somebody else who can help you go through that process. You need somebody else's support. And then maybe if your father is struggling, you are looking for something. You want a father's blessing. You want a father's blessing. There is something that a father carries. One of the things that a father carries identity. A father carries destiny. A father carries the blessing. So there is a blessing and impartation. There are words that he can speak that will release your future. So at times I want to support him so that I can get that. I can get that affirmation, that blessing, that impartation. So I just want to bring another aspect of culture. I like using the Black community because it's a matriarchal community. From the slave era, men would sire kids, and then at some point the man will be sold.
elsewhere, far away, the women will be left with the sole responsibility of raising kids.
Yes.
And you see that cultural, it's like a cultural thing among the Black community that was passed from one generation to another.
Yeah.
And so they have very powerful women who've raised both men. And that's why you hear a lot of them talk about their mother.
Yes.
You are less likely to hear people from the Black community really praising their fathers. There are very few who actually praise those fathers.
Yes.
So in Kenyan context, I also know there are communities that are matriarchal.
Yes.
And where I come from, naturally a child belongs to the father.
Yes.
However bad that father is going to be, you always know, almost inherently, that I belong here.
Yes.
I can wander, I can go wherever I want to go, I can go with my mom.
Yeah.
But one day the question of my true blood will come.
Yes.
And I will start the journey of looking for that.
Yeah.
But I know there are communities where also the search for that father, as long as mom is there, they even take the names. I've seen many of them taking names of their mothers. So is there a place that culture also plays in terms of, building men that are anchored by the fathers? And is there a way that deliberately we can now start having this conversation and help men know that, you're talking about father being the backbone, giving you destiny, identity. Yeah. So what's your take on cultural perspective on this thing?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think culturally, I think like in Africa, in Africa, fathers were strong. Fathers were strong, and fathers actually impacted that backbone to their children, a sense of destiny. But over time, that is going away. So nowadays we are having women. Women are stronger. Women are like the glue that is holding the families together. And in some cultures, even in our nation, even we find children taking on the name of their mothers. But now one thing that the men are lacking now is that backbone. They don't have that backbone. They don't have that sense of destiny. I wake up in the morning at 5. I go to the stage where people pick matatus to go to work. And I only see women. I don't see men. Nowadays, the men are not waking up. And at times, if they wake up, they just escort the lady to the stage. And then the man goes back to sleep. To the house. To the house to sleep. So there is a crisis. And it's a crisis of fatherlessness. So I just want to encourage single women out there. That if you're single and you have a son, get mentors. Get mentors.
Father figures.
Father figures who can walk with your son. Father figures who can impart dimensions of masculinity. Because there are things a mother cannot give. A mother can give his son so many things, but he can't give manhood. Manhood is imparted from a father. It's bestowed. Actually, from TD Jakes says it's bestowed. It is bestowed. And you remember, like for women, for girls, when a girl reaches a certain age, they start having the menstrual cycle. That reminds them that you're a woman. A woman. But for men, we don't have that. So for men, it is supposed to work the other way around. Men, young men, they need other men. Mature men, to tell them that you are now mature. You are now a man. They bestow it. They want to be told. A woman cannot tell a boy that. It takes a man to call out the man in the boy. We call it like calling the king in the kid. So you are a father. Of two? A boy and a girl. That's Sifa
a blessing.
And Resa.
So how deliberately are you parenting to ensure? Because psychologists also say a woman in her search for a partner, in so many ways, they're looking for the father. And that's why you realize that a girl who is raised in a family where the father was violent has got high chances of attracting another man who is violent. Very violent, So how deliberately are you trying to, raise these two? Because here you have a boy, there's a son, and here you have a daughter. And your daughter looks will one day look for a man, and they would want to see qualities, you know, the way you modeled manhood in the house. That is the same kind of manhood that they're going to look for. Your son also needs to see you model a few things here. Yes, as a father. So how deliberate are you when it comes to this? How do you involve your kids? What kind of conversations do you have with them? I know they're quite young, but these conversations start from that age.
For instance, in my daughter, for my daughter, you see, I'm the first man that she met. So number one, she needs to hear from me as a father that she's beautiful.
Wow.
She needs to hear that from me. As a father, I'm supposed to touch her responsibly. She's supposed to get that touch, because touch is a language. And we are supposed to touch our daughters from a young age so that they know how a man is supposed to touch a woman. But it's a responsible touch. Then she also needs to hear from me that, my daughter, you are beautiful.
The affirmation.
The affirmation from the father. So I'm very deliberate on that. I'm very deliberate. She's 8 years now. And we touch a lot. We also talk a lot. I affirm her. I affirm her. I speak to her. Then for my son, I also do the same. That affirmation is very, very important.
So how is the man's affirmation like?
Like he's supposed to know that he has what it takes. That he can be anything he desires to be in life. Because he is wired. He has everything. All that it takes to be that man that is God created him to be.
So here we're talking about responsibilities.
All right. So I think I'm deliberate in terms of my presence. My presence is not just availability, because there are men who are present but they are disengaged. So presence means availability. Presence also means involvement. That I'm involved in their lives. In their day-to-day life. So, you know, one day I went to school and it was a PTA meeting. I'm the only man that attended that meeting.
Wow.
All the fathers were busy.
I see it. You know, I was a teacher. And I was a class teacher. Then all my boys, they would always call mom for pocket money. When we have like AGM, we have like parents meeting. Everyone is always telling mom, we have this, mom, this is what's happening. So one day I just assembled and asked them, guys, why aren't you calling your fathers? I mean, where's dad in the whole of this conversation? And, you know, some are like, I don't know how I can start telling my dad. Oh, hey, my dad is so harsh. I don't want him to come here. And you see, the teachers also have this tendency of, when your parents comes, they want to tell the parents, like, these are the things you've been doing in the school. Sometimes if they're wrong things, they want to tell your parents that. So I agree that so many men are not really, you know, deliberately saying, because we get busy. We are like, we're chasing the bag and we don't care. Let the woman, we delegate a lot of those responsibilities to the woman.
But I think it's important for our children to see us getting involved in things that matter to them. If music matters to my daughter, I must create time to support her. At times by my presence. Maybe when she's performing, I'm supposed to go there and give her my support. I'm supposed to be available. If my son is athletic, I'm supposed to give him my support. When maybe they are having a race or something, I'm supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be involved. So at times fathers are not there. They are at home, but they are not involved in their children's life. So I think involvement is very, very important.
So I want to take this conversation again to a different angle. You know, in a family, there's differences, there's disagreements. And sometimes we expose our struggles. You know, maybe young couples probably, people have wronged each other and they're not talking. And I know kids can always tell that these people are not talking. So how do we protect our kids from learning that we are having our differences? Or is it good that we also share with our kids that your mom and I are disagreeing over something, but you're trying to solve it or whatever. I see it in the movies a lot, like the Hollywood movies. People fight and then they come out, they pretend like they're okay. I've also seen movies where deliberately a father would tell the kids, your mom and I, this and that. And, you know, movies are art. Art is a reflection of the society, and they also try to teach something. So what's your take on that? Like, you disagree? How do we tell our kids, or do we protect them from seeing our differences?
You know, I usually say that where 2 or 3 people are gathered, there will be conflict.
Yeah.
So it's important for our children to know that conflict happens. That the fact that we are having a conflict does not mean that I don't love your mother, or it doesn't mean that your mother does not love me. We are just humans. We are human beings. Then we also need to manage that conflict in a mature way. So one of my challenge to couples is that couples are supposed to mature emotionally. We are supposed to mature emotionally so that even when I'm aggravated, I can handle it with a lot of maturity. I don't have to blow up.
Wow.
Yes. Because they don't want to see me fighting. I can raise my voice. We can have differences. We can disagree. We can have arguments. But it needs to be controlled.
All right.
Yeah, so I think it's important for children to understand that it's okay to have conflict. Because again, if we hide that they don't see us fighting, they will know that in marriage, people are not supposed to have arguments. But that is not the reality. But it needs to be controlled. We need to mature emotionally.
One of the challenges kids have is that we have fathers who portray a perfect figure. I was the best in school. You know, the model of a father. So, fathers are like teachers, you know. Teachers never tell kids about their failures, the subjects they found difficult or hard, you know. We always want to demonstrate a very perfect figure. So are you open to tell your kids about, for example, I also had these areas of my struggles?
I think one of the lessons that we need to teach our children is that failure is part of success. That at some point, they will fail. Because failure is part of success. As you try to succeed, at some point you will fail. You will fail in life, you will fail in doing one thing or the other, but that is not, it is part of success. But at times we try to tell our children that failure is never accepted. So when they fail in life, they don't know how to manage it. Some of them just give up on life. You know, I say that suicide is not just taking away your life. Suicide is also giving up on life. And there are men who have given up on life because they failed at some point. Because their parents taught them that failure is not acceptable. So when they failed, you know, there are people that are 40 years today, but they are still being defined by their class 8 certificate. Unfortunate. Because they were taught that success is what is supposed to define, and failure. So they gave up on life. They committed suicide. They are alive, but they're already committed.
Dead inside.
They're dead inside. There's a man, I think, T.D. Jakes. Jakes, he said that he told his daughter that even when you fail, you can come back home. I'm your father. I'll receive you. And when the daughter failed, the daughter got pregnant at 13 years. She came back. It was shameful. But she came back, and Jakes embraced her daughter, walked with her daughter. Her daughter gave birth. Then she rose up again. Today, she's an international speaker. So I think we also need, as fathers, we need to accept our children even when they fail. Currently, my son is sitting for his class 8 examinations. So I've told him, son, just do your best. Whatever you get, I'll know that you did your best. You did your best. So we're going back to your dad. Did you resolve the conflict, or how was it like? Unfortunately, he died before we had resolved our conflict. My father died in 1996 when I was 20 years old. So we hadn't resolved that conflict. And actually, when he died, I think I got into alcoholism. And it became so bad. It became so bad that my family actually gave up on me. Because now that loss, because now I didn't know. I remember going to his funeral and sitting by his grave. And I was really crying and weeping.
Yes.
I didn't know how to, and there was nobody to help me. So we didn't resolve it. But years later, I gave my life to Christ. And there are some men, some pastors that worked with me. And there's a man particularly that helped me deal with that. So I resolved it. Though it was not
when he's dead.
When he's dead.
Yes.
It was resolved when he is dead. Through that, through the help of that pastor.
I think it still resolves the issues.
Yes.
If you read Obama's Dreams from My Father, you realize that he got to a point where there were so many father figures.
Yes.
And he didn't know who truly is my dad, because the mother was married in Indonesia. And he mentions Lolo greatly, like the lessons and all that. But he also had his grandfather who was the male figure in his life. But a day came when finally he said, I'm hitting the road. I'm going to meet this person. He's dead, but I know I'll meet him. And I like the narration of when he stood by the father's grave and saw so many people that looked like his father, the conversations and everything. I think he left Kenya with resolved father issue. And deliberately he knows what the cost of that absence. And that's why we see him so all over his daughters. And I think the book Dreams from My Father it's like redeeming fatherhood story. I saw it and I was seeing the part of his internal struggles with father identity. And I like it that his mother was open enough to give him a lot of information that he needed to know about his own dad. So I'm also very happy that you solved that issue.
I think it's very, very important to resolve that issue, whether your father is alive or dead. Because if it is not resolved, you will have identity issues.
So let's talk about men alive. Why did you think about that movement? Because I know you guys meet, we've always brought speakers. I've seen very powerful men coming to speak, to the men in that movement.
You see, they did some research in the US by the National Fatherhood Initiative, and they discovered that 97% of the men who were incarcerated grew up without fathers. They also discovered that 92% of men who were involved in people involved in crime are people who never grew up with fathers. They also discovered that 87% of the street prostitutes grew up without fathers. So we are having a crisis, and it's a crisis of manhood. It's a crisis of manhood. And even in our own nation, if you go to the prison committee versus Langata women's prison, men are more.
That's true.
Men are more. So we are having a crisis of manhood.
And almost all those men have similar fatherhood stories.
So I started Men Alive to try and resolve some of the issues that men are going through. One of the issues is the identity issue. Men are struggling with the identity issue. So at times men tie their identity to performance, or they tie it to power, or they tie it to possession. So when maybe possession is taken, then there is a crisis. Or maybe when they can't perform at that optimum level, there is a crisis. So I said, okay, now I think we need to talk to men about identity issues and how to resolve, because identity is a relationship issue. Then also the issue of managing loss. I also saw men that once they lose, it can maybe they lose a loved one, or even maybe they lose their sexual power. A man that thing can destroy a man.
Yes.
Because he has been defining himself
yes.
Through his sexual power. So when he loses that,
yes,
that can destroy him. Yeah, so we thought, okay, let me start this. So I think it's been 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
Of running the Men Alive. And we have amazing speakers that come to encourage men, come to talk to men, and just to inspire men.
Okay.
To be the men that God created them to be.
So for anyone who is listening out there, how do we be part of the Men Alive? Because I know it's not tied to the church sometimes.
Yes, it is not tied to the church.
Men coming to have a conversation.
Yes.
So tell us, how do we come to the Men Alive events?
Okay. So Men Alive is a men's meeting, and it's open to all men, men of all religions.
Yes.
We just come, we gather, and we talk about many issues.
Yes.
We have a breakfast meeting every third Saturday of the month.
Yeah.
It's an early morning meeting from 6:30 to 8:30 there. Or 9, and then we take breakfast together. And then it's also free.
Yes.
So there is no cost to it. It's free.
Yeah.
So I want to take this opportunity to invite you for the men's meeting.
Yeah. So I want you to hold this book.
Yes.
Tell us, why should we buy this book? Sell this book. I know the conversations are very amazing inside there. It's also your way of, opening up about your struggles with fatherhood and how you had that longing for fatherhood. Yeah. So tell us about the book, Reclaiming the Heart of Effective Fatherhood.
Thank you very
much. Yeah.
So the book is called Redeemed Fatherhood. Basically, it's about how a man can move from dysfunctionality to functionality, from brokenness to wholeness. In chapter 1, I talk about fatherhood foundation, that it doesn't matter the kind of past you had, you can rise above it. Yeah. That should not allow your past to define you. In chapter 2, I talk about the search for a father. That second chapter was inspired by a real life story. One day we went to visit a friend of ours who is a single mom. So on reaching a compound, her daughter came running towards me, 4 years old. She came running towards me. Then she told me, I embraced her. She told me, please go and tell my friends that you are my father. Oh. So there is a search. Wow. So I say that there is a hole in the heart of a child that is father shaped. Yeah. Only a father can fill that hole. Yeah. So the search for a father is a search for so many things. It is a search for meaning, search for identity, search for character, search for destiny. But ultimately, it's also a search for God, because only God is the perfect father. Wow. Then chapter 3, I talk about the courage to be healed. It takes courage to forgive your offenders. It takes courage to move on. It takes courage to rise above the past. Then chapter 4, I talk about wisdom for effective fatherhood. And I argue that it takes a lot of wisdom to be a father than to be a president. Wow. Because I look at, even in the Bible, King David was an amazing king, great king, but he failed as a father. He failed as a father. Then chapter 5, I talk about the portrait of a father. Pictures that define a father. And there are 6 pictures that define a father. Then chapter 6, I talk about dad traps. Things that trap men, things that cause men not to be effective as fathers. So one of those things are things like priority. So you find a man who is very effective at work, but very ineffective at home. Very functional at work, but very dysfunctional at home. The issue of priority. Or at times it's pressure. Where you find a man is not able to perform optimally as a father because of pressure. Maybe work pressure, or maybe it's marital pressure, because there are men that their wives are pushing them out. So they don't want to come back home. They come when they are sure the wife is asleep. And they leave very early in the morning
before the wife is
can wake up. Sometimes it's pressure.
Yeah.
So marital pressure can cause a man not to be effective as a father.
So I just wanted you to mention like maybe one of those pressures, marital pressure. Is it, I've seen a situation where a woman wanted a wedding from the man and she had even a budget. And this guy was compelled to, offer. It was 5 million. He's a lawyer. He got it. But he went into debt after that, and eventually he even closed the law firm. And from there, he didn't even saw meaning in his marriage.
Yeah.
And he even attempted suicide at some point. He was caught in some hotel room, lonely there, grappling with his life. So what could be some of these pressures in marriage that might push a man out of there,
One of it is nagging.
Nagging.
Even the Bible says
Yes.
that it is safer to stay in a corner of a room, corner of a roof, than to stay in the same room with a quarrelsome wife.
Wow.
So nagging can push a man out. Sometimes men don't want to come home, not because the woman will beat them, but because they fear your words.
Yes.
So they stay away from you.
Yeah.
And that really affects their fatherhood.
Wow.
Because now they are not available to their children. Then the last chapter in this book is called Redeeming Fatherhood.
Yes.
How now we can redeem the whole concept of fatherhood. And I've talked about players that are involved in redeeming fatherhood. The first player is God. And God has played his part.
Yeah.
Then the second player is the father. And the part of the father in redeeming fatherhood is accepting responsibility.
As a man.
As a man.
And as a father.
And as a father.
Yeah.
When you make a woman pregnant, you're announcing to the world that you are responsible. So you're supposed to take responsibility for that child and for that woman.
Yes.
Then there's the part of the wife in redeeming fatherhood.
Yes.
And the part of the wife in redeeming fatherhood is to support the man.
Wow.
Because as a wife, you can either support or sabotage. So many women are sabotaging fatherhood because they are frustrating that man.
Yeah.
So that man doesn't want to come back home. He can't be effective as a father because of the woman.
Yes.
So I challenge women to support their men.
Wow.
In being at fatherhood. Then there is also the part of the child.
Yeah.
And the part of the child is to honor his father. As a child, it doesn't matter what your father did.
Yes.
You're supposed to honor him. And part of honoring him is forgiving him. That is how you break the cycle of dysfunction.
So do you say that there's a part of affirmation from your child that also builds you as a man? If your child can affirm you as a father, does it promote that? Does it redeem the fatherhood? Does it build it?
It does. And mostly part of the children, when it comes to redeeming fatherhood, is forgiving.
Yeah.
Is forgiving because at times men have shortcomings. So it's important that as a child, you forgive your father. Yeah. Because if you don't forgive him, then you will repeat the same things. To your own children. Then there's also, in redeeming fatherhood, then there's also the part of the church, what the church is supposed to do to redeem fatherhood. Yeah. Then there's the part of a community of men. So I encourage men to have a community, have a tribe.
A tribe.
Men that you can run to, men that you can talk to about everything, the pressures of life. Maybe it's marital pressure, work pressure. Have men that you can talk heart to heart. The temptations. Have men that you can do life with.
Yeah, I know most of our tribes are maybe found in the bar.
Yes.
And so how do you talk about that?
You see, like most men have a community, but they talk about football, they talk about politics, but they don't talk about issues. They don't talk about issues. So I'm there, I'm having issues, I'm bleeding. But we are not talking about that. So whatever we are having is temporary. When I go back home, that mountain is just looking at me. So I think we need authentic relationships where we can just talk about life. I want to talk about your sexual life. How are you managing? Are there temptations? How are you dealing with the temptations? We need those kind of relationships.
So where can we build this relationship? Because I know men do so well in the bar, for example. We go there, we sit, you meet even strangers, you share about your personal issues. And I think Uber guys, I think we need to do a documentary on Uber. I've had so many conversations that are man to man from Uber. Uber guys, like when you're having the drive, sometimes the guy shares with you how he's struggling with his family. You also share your challenges here and there. You talk about how life is difficult and all that. So which other space do you think men can like deliberately create that community?
I think in whatever space you find yourself.
Work be? Yeah.
Just build authentic relationships. Have friends. Yeah. Have friends that you can talk heart-to-heart issues.
All right.
Yes.
So, man of God, do you have friends who are not in the church? Like
yes.
Your friends who, like, I know you minister, you have so many guys around you, but you have a circle of men who some are not like really people who are really into the church. They just maybe old friends. Do you have them?
Yeah, some of my friends are not in the church.
Yes.
Some of my friends drink booze. And at times we meet and we have a conversation when they are drinking.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't push them away because of alcohol. So at times we just meet and have a conversation as they drink their beer.
That's amazing. That's amazing, yeah.
That is authentic friendship.
Yes.
This man was my friend before I became a pastor. So he's still my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have meetings, we meet. I take my juice, he takes his
beer.
Beer. And we talk.
That's really good.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really good. So hand me back the book.
Yes.
So guys, this book is available at 1,000 shillings, right?
Yes.
So they can reach you out. I know you are on social media at Benson Okeyo.
Yeah.
And this book should now be part of your cover page. So that somebody,
I think I'll do that.
You should do that.
Yes.
So you can get this book at 1,000 shillings. I think Man of God has really shared a lot about the book, which is really, really good. Yes. So Man of God, thank you so much for creating time to be here on the show. Thank you. Our target audience is young people. And I think part of those young people also need to hear from people like you,
Yes.
But I'm not saying it's truly limited, like just limited to the young people. But I know so many old guys are not really into, I want to go to YouTube and watch the channel or something like that. But we really appreciate the work you're doing, especially for me, Men Alive. I see it as something that is very profound. So what would be your parting shot to any young man there who's struggling with fatherhood?
Okay. I just want to encourage you. I was able to rise above my challenge, and you can also rise above your challenge. The first step is to seek for help. Find a mature man that you can have a conversation with about your fatherhood. Talk to them about the things that you went through. Talk to them about the pains that you endured. And then the second step is just forgiveness. Actually, that mature man should help you to forgive your father. And if your father is still alive, maybe you need to take a step of faith and just confront him, have a conversation with him, maybe with the help of another man, third party, so that he can help you navigate through that. But you can rise above that past. Don't allow it to define you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Pastor Benson Okeyo in the show. We are so pleased to have him to talk about this very powerful topic, redeeming fatherhood. Until we meet next time, see you.